Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our final review of The Wolf and the King by 1349. So yeah, we were kind of excited going into this last week. This is our first chance to cover this band on the channel. We did the first impressions. We both kind of were like eyeing this band for a while, like, oh, we want to check this band out, and this was, our time to get into it. So our first impressions were pretty favorable.
Yeah.
We both listened to the album. We thought this is pretty good. It's got some interesting stuff there. And we were excited to review it. Going into the week, my excitement was pretty good. I'm listening to it. I'm enjoying it. It's good. Pretty standard. You put it good last week. You said it feels like old school, like Norwegian black metal, but like modernized.
Yeah.
That's kind of, like, after you said that, I was like, yeah, I sense that. I can feel that. And I agree with that. I'm like, this is pretty good for what it is. So, as the week went on, obviously I'm listening to the songs and trying to pick out things that I like and stuff like that, and I was struggling. It's not that I didn't like them. It's not that they were bad or anything like that. But when it comes to this album, I guess, I was trying to be a little bit more broad, but just this album, I really couldn't find a lot of things that stood out that were like special. Mm-hmm. And that's where things get really tricky for me as a reviewer, is when I listen to something and I like it, but I can't really explain what I like about it, it makes it really hard to translate that into words, into a review. And it ends up being kind of a low quality album for that reason, unfortunately. So the highlight songs for me were track number 1 and track number 5. So track number 1, The God Devourer. I just like this song kicking off the album. I think it's cool. I like the groove sections. I like certain things they do. Like there's some switch ups on the double bass from 8th notes to 16th notes, which I think you might have mentioned last week. I'm not sure. But I caught it and I thought it was cool. Catchy riffs and, just those basic kind of things that will make a person gravitate towards a song. This one kind of had the full package going on. But is it a stellar standout song? I don't really think it is. It's not like I was rushing to add it to the playlist or anything like that. But it is a highlight on this album.
Did anything go into your playlist?
Unfortunately, no. Not on this album. And that doesn't mean nothing ever will.
Yeah.
But through listening to it through the week, it's like, when I'm listening to an album and I'm reviewing it, I kind of listen with a different mindset. I'm being critical of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's unfair. In 2 or 3 months, I might put this on again and go, holy fuck, that's actually awesome, when I'm not listening to it critically.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of hard to really flip back and forth between the two or treat an album fairly or unfairly. It's a weird kind of thing you gotta balance, at least for me. Mm-hmm. Inner Portal was the other song, like I mentioned, that stood out to me. I liked how it starts with that heavy bass and the percussion rolls.
Yeah.
That's really cool, the low toms. Again, more cool riffs. The problem that I had with this song is a problem I actually had with 3 songs in a row. So Shadow Point, Inferior Pathways, and Inner Portal, all 3 of these songs say the title way too much.
Yep.
They say it way too much. Like Inferior Pathways, Inferior Pathways, Inner Portal,
Yep.
Shadow Point. Like, Inferior Pathways, for example, I counted, they say the title of the song 17 times in the track. It averages saying it every 15 seconds.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't add Ash of Ages to that list of songs, because they do it in that one.
I could have, but I guess I could have. It's the song right before that too. I started making the connection with Inferior Pathways and Inner Portal, both basically because they're back to back and they're both IP song titles. Like,
you're right. Yeah.
Initials, right? So Inferior Pathways and Inner Portal. I'm like, am I listening to the same song, just hearing different words slightly? It was starting to bug me. Okay, which is sad, and I guess that's a fault of, again, reviewing the album and listening to it over and over again. I just kept feeling like I was hearing him say these things over and over and over again. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And that's where I'm like, I gotta count how many times he's saying this. I'm like, 17 times? Okay, let's do some math. Let's calculate it. Okay, on average, once every 15 seconds. That's extreme.
The fact that you were, the fact that you were provoked to calculating that at all is very funny, but it's also, I guess, kind of apparent of an issue.
It's concerning.
Like, have you ever had to do that before? Have you ever felt like I gotta do that? Like
Not
at any,
somebody- yeah, I
like,
don't think so.
The first time
I've done weird stuff like that before, but yeah, for something like this, like, no, I don't think so.
calculating how many times he says it. Like
I think if they'd split up Inferior Pathways and Inner Portal on the album, it would have been less obvious.
I guess
or
that
less,
makes sense.
You know, annoying.
That makes sense.
Having them back to back, I think, was the downfall. Yeah, really.
Honestly, I had a similar thing. Like I noticed that as well. That they just kept saying it, and that's one of the ways you can tell what song it is, because he tells you this one's Ash of
over
Ages.
and over again.
Now, speaking of the chorus of Ash of Ages, I actually really like that you got the double kick going straight through.
Yeah.
That whole thing, just that in the background as he's doing some rolls on the snare with that riff. I thought that was actually pretty cool. And I did feel similar of him just saying the song name over and over. I'm like, okay, I get it. I know what song this is. Thanks. But I didn't mind it as much on Inner Portal. I don't know why, because it is kind of the same deal, but that one just hit different, I guess.
I didn't mind it as much on that song either, which is why it was one of my highlights.
And, you know, I feel the same way with you about that intro with the drums and bass coming in like that. Sets up an atmosphere really, really nice. I also really like that Shadow Point opens with a fade in, and then you got the guitar in the intro, which kind of reminds me of something that you might see Slayer do, like a guitar intro like that.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty neat. But unfortunately, I don't really have much else to say about songs on the album, and I think that's one of the problems, is that I found it difficult to find anything to really say. The song would come, it would go, and I'd say, well, there it is.
It happened.
There wasn't
It was
really...
fine.
And that's, you know, one of the issues I kind of found is that it didn't really have much to stand out. And I think, yes, it's difficult to listen to albums with the mindset of reviewing it. Yes. And it does change your perception of how the album goes. But you also got to ask yourself, how excited am I to listen to this album? Because throughout the week, I didn't really find myself thinking, man, I can't wait to throw that on again.
I just was lacking those moments. That's why.
Exactly, but I think that that's just a natural thing. Like, no matter if you're gonna review an album or if you're just casual listening, if something doesn't draw you in for any apparent reason, then you have no reason to want to listen to it again.
Yeah.
That's just a natural thing.
That's right.
So you look at it, you know, any album on this channel that we reviewed that I've liked, right? I felt that, I can't wait to throw that on again.
Yeah.
You know, I look forward to it. With this,
you get a passion.
Yeah, exactly. With this album, I didn't really have that. Yeah. I just kind of felt to throw it on. And I remember, you know, because throughout the week, sometimes we talk, hey, how you feeling about it so far? And you mentioned that this album is great background music.
Yeah.
And I put it on in the background. I'm like, you know what? You're right. It is great background music. It is great to have on as just kind of stuff that's there.
Yeah.
But not something to really seek out any like crazy moments or anything, because a lot of the songs just kind of come and go, and it's like, I can't, you know, you mentioned a song and that I didn't, you mentioned any song in the album that I didn't talk about, and I can't really tell you how it goes to a degree. Like I can't, it's just not as memorable as I wanted it to be, and it didn't really feel like it was gripping me as much as I would have preferred it to. I did kind of feel that it might be a mood album. It might be if you're really feeling like, you know, Norwegian black metal, if you're in that zone, then you might want to put it on. But at the same time, there might even be a better alternative within the realm of Norwegian black metal that you might want to put on instead.
There is, but this would fit in there anyway.
It fits there anyway. Like if you're just into that in general and you don't care about, you know, it has to be the best or not, just you can throw this on and it's good.
Yeah.
But
I mentioned something last week, so I want to ask you about the Fatalist, the last song. Because I mentioned something last week about it being kind of jarring in the intro, and I wasn't sure if it was just like the timing was off between the drums and the guitars or something. Did you check that out at all? Or
couldn't tell.
Oh, okay.
I do think I recall you mentioning that last week, but I don't remember, and I didn't notice it in the song, which is kind of a testament.
It's weird.
It's a testament to how the song just didn't grab me. Like it just came and went, and I'm like,
so I was trying to figure out what was really going on. I didn't spend a lot of time analyzing it, but honestly, at first I thought it was just like shifted, like they were both played together, like at 4/4, the moment shifted over the other, and then they eventually line up again later somehow. But it might have been a tempo thing. I'm not sure, but I thought it was an interesting creative choice.
I do also think, you know, it is kind of difficult when you're reviewing an album to try to look at it critically. There are some albums that aren't really meant to be looked at critically. I don't know if you've heard of this band. They're called Bong Ripper. They're kind of like a droney kind of just kind of band.
You
but
can't review an album like that or a band like that.
It's hard to do that. But you know, a buddy of mine showed me one of their albums, like the new one that came out this year, and I liked it because I'm like, you know what, this is cool to just kind of put on and just vibe to that, or perfect for the background.
Exactly.
Like it has a use, but then I don't see us reviewing an album like that on the channel because it's like, what is there? It's so the metric of trying to determine what makes strong and weak tracks on an album like that. We don't like. It doesn't really work with how you review an album. So you kind of have to put on a completely different lens. Doesn't really work for how we do things. So it's difficult with some albums that we cover because some of them don't really feel like they fit that way, right?
It's true, and sometimes you get tricked too, because like I said, our first impression of this album was like, oh man, there might be some juicy stuff here. Let's give it a week to listen. Like, we were both kind of excited. So you can get, maybe a false first impression or something like that, and it ends up going the other way.
I mean, that's the nature of it, right? That's why we do what we do. Because, if we just reviewed this on the day it came out, obviously it probably would have been different than what we're saying here right now.
Yeah.
After a week of listening to the album, that's just how it goes. Some albums grow, some albums don't. That's just how it happens, and that's why we do what we do. We give it the stress test that way.
All right, so let's rate it. The Wolf and King, for me, yeah, it's fine. It's a decent black metal album. I could put it on whenever, and it'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with it particularly, but there's just nothing really special about it. It's landed at a 4 for me.
All right, I feel pretty similar to Vile Self. I think this album is good for some of its purposes if you like that style of music, if that's your thing. I just kind of felt that there wasn't really much that stood out, wasn't really much that made this album notable. I don't really find myself excited to go put it on again. I'm gonna match that score at a 4.
So that's it. The Wolf and the King gets a double 4 on the channel, and we just want to hear from you guys and let us know if you guys agree or disagree, and let us know. I always want to curious, fans of the band. If you're a fan of the band, is this a good album or not a good album? Because maybe we just got a bad album, maybe, right? Or not bad, but one of their lesser ones, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they have other stuff that's way better than this. I don't know. At some point, I'm gonna do a dive and check out more of their stuff because I do like this band and I want to be a fan of this band.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
We'll see you guys in the next one.